Welcome to the Humans Against Poor Scholarship Summer Grant Interviews. Each one of our interviewees is competing for a $2,000 grant to help fund their summer research. Do you want to have a say in who gets funded? Become a HAPS donor today by visiting www.hapsfunds.com/donate. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Digital Hammurabi and the final of our HAPS exit interviews. Despite what that very fancy intro just told you, we actually have already awarded grants. These are the grants that we awarded last year, and May Sarah was one of our fantastic scholars, and she has very kindly come back to tell us about her summer of research. So May Sarah, welcome back. It's lovely to see you again.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
So we are just going to get right into it. For those who did not catch your interview the first time around, could you just give a very brief introduction of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a PhD student at the University of Frankfurt am Main and also working in a research project at the Vorderasiatisches Museum in Berlin. So it is called Glassur and it's dealing with glazed bricks, and this is going to be about glazed bricks today. And my
Wonderful.
research.
We love glazed bricks. For those who are not familiar with them, they are depicted in this painting directly behind my head. So May Sarah has a wonderful presentation for us. So I am going to mute myself and let you take it away.
Okay, so thank you very, very much. Let's see. Okay, so I hope everyone sees the presentation. So as I've said, I'm May Sarah Cecine, and first of all, I would like to thank you, Megan Lewis, for everyone, and also the team of the Humans Against Poor Scholarship charity organization for giving me this wonderful chance today to present some first results on the study on marks occurring on glazed bricks from the ancient Near East, all dating to the first millennium BCE. And especially today, I'm going to talk about those bricks which are stored now at the Louvre in Paris in France. Those bricks come from the ancient Assyrian site Dur-Sharrukin, or also known by its modern name Khorsabad, situated in the northern part of Iraq. And thanks to the H.A.P.S. Summer research grant, I could undertake some further analysis on those bricks. And I'm more than grateful for this opportunity. And so basically my research interest is focused on the question what function those marks had and how we can reconstruct different marking systems in order to identify, let's say, similar or different stages of the production as well as building processes of ancient temples and palaces. And in the following, I will just try to give a short introduction into my PhD thesis, followed also by a geographical overview, mentioning or depicting sites where we do find archaeological evidence for glazed brick decoration. And this is also followed by a short history of research concerning glazed bricks, especially marks occurring on glazed bricks. And the presentation today will not just focus on the marks on glazed bricks from Dur-Sharrukin, but also I would like to take the chance to give you a brief comparison with other major Assyrian sites from the Neo-Assyrian period, such as Nineveh, Nimrud, or also Ashur, which are all situated in the northern part of Iraq today. And especially in Ashur, my journey of studying marks occurring on glazed bricks began. So thanks to the Glassur project for which I'm working for at the Vorderasiatisches Museum in Berlin, it became clear that marks occurring on glazed bricks needed more attention than they got so far from the scientific community in order to understand how these ancient palaces or temples, for the case of Ashur, were decorated with and built by glazed bricks. And the project documented over more than 3,000 bricks and brick fragments made of fired clay clay, and which are all stored at the museum today in Berlin, and which formerly belonged to the glazed brick facades from the Ashur temple in Ashur. So Ashur is situated, as I've mentioned before, in the northern part of Iraq, about 97 kilometers south of Mosul. And yeah, if you want to know more about this project, check out our website with the link depicted here on the slide. And yeah, through the work in this project, the research question emerged or evolved how we can identify certain processes of the production of those glazed bricks, but also of the assembly or construction of these glazed brick facades. Through the detection of marks occurring on those glazed bricks. And the goal of my thesis is to improve our knowledge about ancient civilizations, as well as their crafting abilities in the first millennium BCE in the ancient Near East, and especially to preserve and transmit their history. Yeah. So can marks on glazed bricks indicate construction processes of ancient palaces and temples? This is my research, or basically my research question in my PhD thesis. The map depicting here on the slide shows, as I've mentioned before, the main areas for which we can detect archaeological evidence for glazed brick decoration. So basically in ancient Mesopotamia, so now in northern Iraq and southern Iraq, but also in Elam, which was located in the western and southwestern part of Iran today. And for Elam, the earliest glazed brick decoration was already found in the Middle Elamite period, so that dates back to the 14th century BCE. And for Mesopotamia, though, the earliest glazed bricks were found at Nuzi, which is also an ancient site and capital in the northern part of Iraq today, southeast from Mosul, dating also to the 14th and 13th century BCE. And following up this route of glazed brick decoration, what I'm trying to do in my PhD is to detect also if marks occurred on those glazed bricks. So here you can see enhanced with blue circles all the sites I've checked so far, where we do find also marks occurring on glazed bricks, telling us more about their production and assembly process on their sites. All of them are dating to the
Sorry, Sarah, I'm just going to interrupt. We can still only see the very first slide. Is that right?
No. Oh no. No. I've moved on. Wait a second. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no. That's not your fault at all. There we go.
So wait a second, because now I'm trying to. And now, like this is the first slide, and now do you see the second?
No, we're still on the geographical frame.
Why is it not working? I don't understand, because I have everything. I shared my screen.
I think what we're seeing is the screen that you have up to switch between slides. That's so we can see structure.
Now you can see structure. Maybe should I do it like this? It would be
that. Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. We can see that clearly.
I'm so
sorry. No, I'm sorry.
Okay, so but you could hear what I said.
Yes, we heard everything.
Okay, so good. We will see. So we go just back to the structure again. Wait a second. So this was the information I've just mentioned about the Glassware project shortly with the link. And my supervisor from the Goethe-Universität, Professor Dirk Wicker. So here again, sorry, it takes some time. Now you see the geographical frame, I hope, where I've mentioned the main areas of glazed brick decoration. And so I think I was at this point now where what I tried to do in my PhD thesis to collect information on all the sites where glazed bricks occur, but marks where we could find marks occurring on glazed bricks. So I enhanced those archaeological sites with blue circles. And what I've done so far here is also to check sites where we do find glazed bricks, which are enhanced here in red, but where no mentioning of marks was found in the publication so far. Yeah, so like for example, Hassanlu in the northern part of Iran, excuse me, of Iran, or Guzana in the northern part of Syria, which is also known as Tel Halaf. And which brings me now to the next slide, especially the story of marks occurring on glazed bricks. And this story seems to be a quite complicated one due to the fact that marks, or fittest marks, let's say, which were responsible for the assembly of glazed bricks, were not always addressed by this term. And yet a comparative analysis is still missing in our field of study. So therefore, I want to mention the beginning of a more detailed study of glazed bricks, which was undertaken by Walter André, who joined also the German excavation team led by Robert Koldewey to Babylon, which is situated in the southern part of Iraq today, so about 85 kilometers south of Baghdad. And during these excavations, they find, like it's depicted here, glazed bricks. But also, just shortly after the first excavations took place, they published some results also concerning fittest marks. Oh, I'm sorry, I did. Yeah, here, which is depicted on the slide actually. So what you can see here is a watercolor made by André, showing the first reconstruction of a fittest mark system applied to build up the throne room facade at the Southern Palace in Babylon. And in general, these marks were applied on the upper surfaces of the bricks to indicate the exact position of each single brick within its facade it belonged to. So that means that they were not just helping to build this facade, but moreover, they were essential to construct a glazed brick decoration for a temple, palace, gate. You can name the architecture feature. And moreover, they can be seen also as required instruments in order to construct those monuments. But I will come back to this system and a detailed explanation later, because for now, I'm sorry, I just I'm used to the presentation. But so with regard to my latest research I've undertaken and the chosen case study for today, it is important to just mention briefly the history of research for the ancient Assyrian site Dur-Sharrukin, which was founded by Sargon II in the late 8th century BCE, and which is also located in the northern part of Iraq, about 15 kilometers north of Mosul. And these first excavations were undertaken by Paul-Émile Botta, who was a French consul at Mosul, and in 1843 he began the first excavations in Dur-Sharrukin, so almost 180 years ago in March 1843. And what you can see here on the slide is that Botta published together with Eugène Flandin the first finds from the site, which were glazed bricks. And now at the Louvre, there are about 58 bricks and brick fragments from his mission. And two examples are shown here on the slide, on the top and on the bottom, which also depict typical Assyrian or Neo-Assyrian patterns and motifs, such as the rosette motif depicted here on top, executed in an orange color, but also these stylized shaped, mountain-shaped pattern depicted here on the brick on the bottom of the slide. And again, sorry. And almost 10 years later, Victor Place followed the footsteps of Paul-Émile Botta and became consul at Mosul at the time, and undertook further excavations. And he too did unearth an archway of gate number 3, which was located at the southern edge of the city of Dur-Sharrukin, and which is depicted here on the right. Which was also decorated with glazed bricks, and also showing or depicting typical Neo-Assyrian motifs such as the rosette, this time executed in a white color, alternately with winged spirits executed in an orange-yellow color. And unfortunately, none of those bricks survived their transport. All of them vanished in the river Shatt al-Arab in 1855 during the transport on a ship, which apparently sank. So just 8 fragments at the Louvre today could be linked to P.A.S excavations, which was undertaken by Ariane Thomas, who is the director of the Antiquities Department of the Ancient Near East at the Louvre. And she suggested that those bricks from this mission would have been transported with other objects together before this main transport of the archway. Yeah. Glazed bricks from Dur-Sharrukin are not just found at the Louvre in Paris. There are also some brick fragments and bricks which are now located at the Oriental Institute of the University of Chicago, because from 1928 until 1935, excavations were undertaken at the site, led by Edward Chiara, Henry Frankfurt, and Gordon Loud. And the team unearthed also glazed brick decoration at the temple Sin, at the Sin temple. This is the moon god, and which is depicted here on the left. And there are these podia, let's say, or friezes depicting the entrance of this temple, show also typical Neo-Assyrian motifs, such as the Assyrian king, a striding lion, but also a bull, which is depicted here on the right, and which are now, or can be seen in the Oriental Institute at Chicago. So the total amount of bricks which are stored at the Oriental Institute is unclear to me. I do not know the number, but Kirsten Newman, who is curator at the Oriental Institute, presented some further insights on that matter at the ICANE last year. So this is the biggest conference in our field of study. And she was mentioning in her talk that about 35 boxes or crates filled with glazed bricks and brick fragments arrived in Chicago in June 1933, and that before the pandemic in 2020, they had the idea and project to unbox those crates and to study further the glazed bricks, which come from Dur-Sharrukin and H.A.P.S. But for now, I do not know if they started this project or not. So, but I think we will can await some very interesting results when they do. And but as promised before, I have to come back again to Babylon shortly to explain further the function of Vitus marks, but also the system of Vitus marks, which was applied here. And as I've mentioned before, this is the first time we can see an entire system working and have been applied to build up the throne room facade at the Southern Palace in Babylon. And what is important to know is that there have been used 3 different marks on each brick to indicate its exact location in its facade or panel. So that means the central mark, which can be seen here as horizontal strokes or lines, indicated the brick layer or course the brick belonged to. And it counts from 1 to 7. So 7 is the maximum number of strokes which was applied on one brick. So the facade then was subdivided into several parts, which I tried to indicate here on the scheme with the letter A and B. And each segment or part of this entire facade consisted of 7 courses or brick layers, here indicated by these Latin numbers. So one single central mark indicated to which course the brick belonged to, and the 2 lateral marks indicated the exact position of that brick within its course. And it might be even more complex than one can guess at first, because the repetition of these lateral marks repetition happens always on the same brick in its course. So this is depicted here by these dark blue rectangles. So if we look at part A, course 2, brick number 5. This brick shows the same lateral marks then for segment B, course 2, and brick number 5. And this is not just true for the different parts, it's also true for one segment, section, or part. So let's see if you have a closer look to course number 6 and 7 of segment A and their 5th brick depicting also the same lateral marks. So coming back to the lateral marks, it is important to know and to keep in mind that they were necessary to place the brick within its course, and contiguous bricks were marked by the same mirrored symbols on the sides. And this explanation is crucial in order to understand and then to achieve a reconstruction of the system of H.A.P.S marks, which was applied here at Babylon, but also to be able to compare this with other sites. So if we keep that in mind, we can have a closer look now at some of the bricks belonging to the royal palace in Dur-Sharrukin, dating to the reign of Sargon II, as I've mentioned before. And the shape of bricks is rectangular, as you can see here, so about 15 centimeters deep, 30 centimeters long, and 10 centimeters high. This is the so-called half format in which they've been produced. And 3 examples are depicted here on the slide, containing also H.A.P.S marks applied on the upper surface of the bricks. And 2 of the bricks, maybe you recognize them, were already drawn by Eugène Flandin, which I've mentioned before on the other slide. And but he just drew the front, so the glazed motifs, and not really paid attention to the H.A.P.S marks, which also explains a bit the lack of information on those marks until now. So to come back to the archaeological evidence, we have 3 H.A.P.S marks executed on those bricks from Khorsabad, but in contrast to the system in Babylon, where we do find horizontal lines to indicate the course or layer, here we have vertical strokes indicating to which layer or course the brick belonged to. And all of those marks were executed, as you can see, in a whitish beige glaze. And we do find also geometric shapes or pictographs, which were used as the lateral marks. Another example is depicted here. Again, we can see 3 different marks applied on the upper surface of this brick, where vertical strokes indicated the course again, and a half circle on the left, as well as part of a pictograph on the right. And again, they were applied by with an whitish or beige glaze. And what is also interesting is that we can see on the smoother bottom of the brick, which is depicted here on the right, an impression which seems to be like an intentionally made stamp impression, which we do have also in Babylon or Ashur. And after a short search in the online collections of the Oriental Institute of Chicago, we can see a similar or almost the same picture for the format of the bricks. This is the aforementioned half format, so they are in a rectangular shape, about 15 centimeters deep. And also H.A.P.S marks executed in this white glaze. There are also 3 marks occurring on those bricks on the upper surfaces. And again, the vertical strokes indicated the layer the brick belonged to, and the geometric shapes here depicted as circles with crosses or points as lateral marks to indicate the exact position of the brick in its brick bond. And now coming to other Assyrian sites with marks on glazed brick, I try just to summarize briefly the results I've gathered so far. All the sites are situated in the northern part of Iraq today, and it seems as if the same concept or system was applied in order to assemble and build up glazed brick facades of temples and palaces. So to get started with the ancient city of Kalshu or Nimrud, we can see here on the left a glazed brick which is deeper. It's the full format, which we do have also in Ashur. It's about 30 centimeters deep and 30 centimeters long, where we can find white executed Vitis marks applied on the upper surface of the bricks. But more interestingly is that we do have also bricks which are shaped in this half format, showing two different sets of Vitis marks executed in a whitish color and also in a black color. And this is interesting now because we do not know if these two sets can be interpreted as two stages of the production or construction process, or if they can be linked to a reuse of the bricks. So let's say Sargon II built a temple and decorated it with glazed bricks. So they needed Vitis marks. Then his son Sanherib came and wanted to remodel the palace and, I don't know, decorate the friezes or podia with other motifs or patterns, let's say. So another type or set of Vitis marks occurred then on the upper surface. So this is not clear yet. So we do not know for sure. And as I've mentioned before, the glazed bricks from Ashur, they do show a close resemblance to those bricks from Khorsabad or Dur-Sharrukin. Here again, we see 3 marks applied on the upper surface of the brick, executed in a whitish or beige color. And again, vertical strokes indicated the course, and the lateral marks indicated the exact position of the brick. And to conclude, or finally, I just want to mention briefly some scattered brick fragments from Nineveh, which show some lateral marks, I think. We cannot say for sure because, well, the bricks are not preserved in a way that you can tell, but they show Aramaic letters which have been used as lateral marks, I think. Yeah, and finally, to approach my research question from the beginning, it can be stated that with regard to the function of marks occurring on glazed bricks, we can illustrate the different stages of the production and building process, either for glazed or unglazed architectural features in general. And what I try to do here is to apply the chaîne opératoire approach in order to understand how glazed bricks were made. So this was an approach firstly proposed by Leroy-Gourhan in 1943 and then developed by Lemonnier in 1992. And it's a method or a way to better understand the production of archaeological objects, let's say. So all processes can be identified or can be read by the physical appearance of archaeological objects. So in my case, the glazed bricks and marks occurring on them, or even the lack of marks could indicate how optional or required choices took place during the production process. So with regard to the Vitis marks, we can say that this applying must happen or must have happened after the first firing of the bricks. And this can be suggested also for the studied glazed bricks from Khorsabad. Whereas those stamp impressions, let's say, have been applied before the first firing on the smoother bottom of the brick, usually. And in order to summarize now my preliminary results, we can say that at least 2 different marking types occur on bricks from Khorsabad. So first, as I've mentioned, these so-called Vitis marks in order to assemble the glazed panels or friezes or podia. And there is at least 1 stamp impression, which probably stems from the production of the brick. And we can also see this as kind of a maker's mark. And this term was suggested by Kirsten Newman, actually, in a paper dealing with a brick from Nimrud, which shows a stamp impression also on the bottom of the surface of the brick. And I think that this term fits perfectly because it reflects the process of making the brick, and could be interpreted also as a sign of a workshop, maybe. Yeah. And again, it is important to keep in mind that fittest marks were required in order to assemble the facade, whereas those makers marks, seem to have been optional choices during the production, because we do not find those impressions on every brick, just rarely. And for now, as I've mentioned before, we can see that a general concept of assembling glazed bricks and creating glazed brick decorations on temples and palaces must have existed, at least for the Neo-Assyrian site studied so far, by using 3 different marks on one brick. Yeah, but what is also very interesting is that this tradition or technology or technique, let's say, that's the best word, I think, is that it continues until later periods. So we do have glazed bricks from the Achaemenid period, from Babylon and Susa, where still 3 different marks were used in order to assemble the glazed brick decoration on the sides. And 2 examples are depicted here on this slide. And on the right, you can see also an incised mark. So for Susa, there are even more marking types than we know for sites in the Neo-Assyrian period. But this is now another story to tell, maybe at another time. So I just want to mention or stress at the end that there is a great potential of restudying objects in the museum collections worldwide. And I'm still analyzing the Khosabat bricks, which are stored at the Louvre. And while I was doing that, I checked out the online collections of the Oriental Institute of Chicago. And one brick caught my eye, which is depicted here now, and where you can see a 3rd marking type, which occurs in Khosabat. This is an intentionally made finger impressions, and we do find those finger impressions also in Ashur. So this means that there must have been even more marking types which have been used in the time than we did know before, or than we might think. And unfortunately, no picture of the upper surface of this brick was available online. I'm not sure if they exist, but I will definitely write an email and ask about that, because I think that the glaze you can see here very clearly, it's well preserved. You can still see the colors and the contouring lines. And I think that on the upper surface, we might trace also glaze which was used for fittest marks, maybe also vertical strokes. Yeah, so to conclude, there is a need for ongoing research concerning marks on glazed bricks. I think I've demonstrated that by now. And this ongoing research is necessary also to achieve a better picture, let's say, or a broader picture of the ancient society, and especially of the organization of craftsmen during the 1st millennium BC in the ancient Near East. And I know it seems that this is still a complex subject, but these little studied marks can also be another key for dating issues, as well as construction or communication processes that took place in the Neo-Assyrian period and lasted until later periods, like the Achaemenid period, in what I demonstrated. And yes, so some of my references I've used to create this presentation and used for my PhD are depicted here. And I just want to take the chance again to mention a very recently published paper dealing with the glaze composition of the black color, which was used in Khosabat, in Ashur, in Babylon, and also the yellow-orange glazes from those sites. And maybe this is of interest for those who want to follow up the latest research in this matter. And so thank you very, very much for your attention. It was maybe a long presentation and a lot of detail, but I'm very grateful that I could share my research with you. And special thanks goes again to the team and the community of Humans Against Poor Scholarship. I'm so grateful that I could undertake these further studies. And I would want to thank also Professor Barbara Helving, who is the director at the Vorderasiatisches Museum in Berlin, and also Dr. Ariane Thomas, who is the director of the Département des Antiquités Orientales at the Louvre Museum in Paris, and also my supervisor, of course, Professor Dirk Wicke, and especially my colleagues and the project leaders, Dr. Helen Gries, who is also a curator at the Vorderasiatisches Museum, and Dr. Anja Fügert, because they let me study all those fascinating marks occurring on the glazed bricks from Ashur, and also Monsieur Mahmoud Alassi, for the organization that I could study those marks from Khosabat. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. That was very interesting. And I think it's something that probably isn't given the attention it's due and the attention it deserves. Certainly, it's not something that I've ever seen showcased in museums. So really, thank you for telling us about that. That's fascinating. We have a couple of questions.
Wow.
Anja says, what was the most surprising thing you learned from your research?
Never to how do you say, sorry, my English, I have to translate.
That's okay.
Never, don't expect that everything is studied already, like, and given, and just because you are still a student, that you don't have any ideas of further analyze objects. So this was really surprising when I started my research, because I thought, as a student in like the bachelor's program and also the master's program, that wow, there's so many books, there's so many literature already dealing with, like, let's say, ancient Near Eastern archaeology. But now I'm just surprised, because it's so important to pay attention even to small details, and even if they don't seem very clear at first, they can tell us so much about ancient time, and can still, I mean, there are still those signs and symbols, they are still used in everyday life today to build up streets, let's say. And this is like a direct link to technology which survived from the ancient times until today. So yeah, this is really fascinating still.
Thank you. And we also had a question from Carl, who is wondering what was used as the raw material for the blue pigments that we see?
That's a very good question, and we do have different results for the glaze composition of blue, which was used for Babylon, or the Babylonian, Neo-Babylonian bricks. So their cobalt was detected in the glaze composition. So you need, for glazing, you need coloring agents, and those coloring agents were usually taken from metal oxides like cobalt too for Babylon. But for the bricks from Ashur, we can see that a higher concentration of copper has been used in order to produce the blue, which is more a turquoise, if you've seen right now for Khosabat too.
Thank you very much. And here we have a couple extras. Carl again wondering if scanning the bricks would show different marks that maybe aren't visible to the naked eye.
Yeah, we have to distinguish two different technology. This is also a very good question. You can have, how is it called? Imagery technology, and then where you can use different lights, let's say. This is what I depicted at the beginning on the first slide, where we have the ultraviolet light, for example, which shows and detects the glaze in a better way. Like before, like the excavators at Babylon or Ashur, they didn't have this technology, so they could not really detect traces of glaze, which we can by using ultraviolet light. But I tried to use it, this ultraviolet light on the bricks from Khosabat, and it didn't really help. Or on the Achaemenid bricks from Susa, I did not get any results. So there again, must have been a different composition of glaze, which has been applied in order to produce those marks, those fittest marks.
Thank you. And we have one final question. Would you correct any of, I assume, the conclusions or the theories of earlier archaeologists when it comes to these bricks?
Wow, that's a tough question.
It's a big one.
And it's a big one. I have to think about it, honestly. Because I'm surprised how much they already knew at the time. If I compare what happened afterwards, and even recently published papers sometimes don't deal with the upper surfaces or bottom of the bricks. They usually concern motifs or patterns. So I think correct is maybe a word which is too hard, but maybe to add or to join the research which was done until now. And I'm not finished with my PhD yet, but when I'm finished, maybe I can answer this question again.
And we've actually had more questions come in. Are you happy to keep going for a few minutes?
Wow. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I have time. It's in the afternoon. And I'm happy that there is so much interest in this topic.
Of course. So Atari says, are there any major differences or changes in technology over time?
That's also a very good question. So technologies concerning what, like
I assume the brick process.
Yeah, I'm still working on that too, according to the marks. And I think there is a know-how or a set of know-how which speaks in favor for a knowledge transfer, which I could not detect for now in any texts. So this is quite interesting what we already know for ancient civilizations, that there must have been like kind of an oral history, oral traditions, delivering ideas and concepts how to build up panels, friezes, facades. So the change in technology, what I can see in the comparison between the Neo-Assyrian period and the Achaemenid period is, for example, that the material changed. So for the first half of the first millennium BCE, bricks were made of clay and fired like two times, sorry. And then in the Achaemenid period, we have a different material like quartz, sand, limestone mixture, which is much harder than fired clay. And those bricks have been fired 3 times. So there I can see a change of technology, but for Babylon, or not for Babylon, but for Toleyajuri, which is located in the southwestern part of Iran today, close to Persepolis, there we have bricks made of clay and also bricks made of like the sand limestone mixture at the same time. So
interesting.
It's very interesting. Yeah.
Thank you. And Carl again is asking, is there evidence of repairing in the bricks? Like I assume ancient repair processes. And is it possible to, or was it possible to replace maybe a brick that had been broken?
Yeah. Well, Asher, I can say that for sure that we do have secondary use bricks. This is what he means by I think replace a single type and C2. We have certain facades where the bricks, when the excavators unearthed the facade in situ, they found some bricks which were put, sorry, my English, were put reversely into the brick bond. So the glazed motif or pattern was not depicted at the front, but was, turn around. So this speaks for like a secondary use of the facade or still in later time. And we do have also on the small edges of some bricks, we do find some traces of not repair, but let's say work traces, like someone putting them into the brick bond or putting them out. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you. Saad asks, what is your favorite archaeological site in Mesopotamia or Persia and why?
That's awesome. It just has been the great opportunity to visit Persepolis in Iran. So I would definitely say Persepolis, because in Iraq I haven't been yet, but my dream would be, of course, to visit like Ashur or Babylon for sure. I mean, I've studied so much already for those sites. So I would love one day to go there and see, because I think this is also important, not just to read. Books are very important and the information they give, but you also have to see the environment, the context, the odor. This is also a part of the history of ancient civilizations and sites. So yeah, from what I've learned, this was actually why I chose to study Near Eastern archaeology, because I've seen so many sites in Iran, and so many knowledge which can be, still delivered and studied and discussed and debated, and yeah, so.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. That is all of our questions. Thank you again for joining us and for telling us all about your research. It's been fascinating. I have one final question before you go. What is next for you, professionally speaking?
Yeah, that's a good question. I will try to finish the study of the bricks from H.A.P.S, and also, in between write the chapter about it, and also to clear how do you say, because I've built a database, of course, and to collect all the data and information, and to clean this, and then to get the final results done. And also I want to write Kirsten Newman and ask if some of the bricks at the Oriental Institute, if they got some new information. Also, there are still glazed bricks stored at the British Museum in London. So these are the next steps before I will finish all the collection of the data, because at one point I have to stop. I would love to go on.
Yeah, just keep going forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're not allowed to do that.
You just saw in the presentation, I think, I didn't expect that. I just clicked on the photos, and then there was this marking type number 3 in my typology. And this is, or not my, but in the typology. Well, I mean, for now there is
I think yours.
I'm creating one. I'm trying to create one in order to compare this at least, and to make it more understandable to scholars. Yeah.
Well, that sounds very exciting. And if you ever want to come back and talk when you've finished, we would be thrilled to hear about it all.
I would love to. Yeah.
I think the questions today have proven that this is of interest to people. So
I'm so happy. So thank you so much again for the support, and also for this podium here to share this research. I'm more than happy, and I will come back for sure when I finish. I'm not sure when it will be. I'll try to be as fast as I can after it, of course. But definitely I will.
Well, thank you. And everybody watching, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, as ever, for your thoughtful questions and for your kind consideration of May Sarah's research. We have actually just opened HAPS applications for 2022. So keep your eyes peeled. We will be starting interviews in May. I believe they're scheduled to start. So come back, watch more fascinating research. And if you want to donate, then the link has been running across the bottom of the screen throughout today. So go and donate. And as a reminder, everybody who donates to the HAPS project gets then to vote for the research they would most like to see funded. And that is how we make our determination. It's not me, it's not a board of directors, it's the people who fund the research. So please get involved. We would love to have your support. And until next time, resist poor scholarship. Always ask, how do you know that?
Perfect.